I'm back. Rick? Gilsey? Byron? Everyone's gone. Okay, guess I'm doing it today. Let's get into the news. Hi there, everyone. I'm your rinkside reporter, Riley Roberts, and I'm not going to lie to you. I was expecting a bit more fanfare, a bit more of a welcome home party after being kidnapped and put in a cardboard box for about a month, but none of my friends/acquaintances/coworkers are here today, so let's just take a look at some news from around the hockey world. New York Rangers general manager Chris Drury penned an open letter to fans on Friday that basically took 3 paragraphs to say the following. We suck. We know we suck. We're going to continue to suck, but please don't say we're rebuilding. The NHL and NHLPA released a statement this week saying they're pleased with the test games that happened at the Olympic Rink in Milan. This feels like a great time to point out that the ice caved in during one of those games, and they patched it with a watering can. And after what seems like years of speculation, Rasmus Andersson is finally on the move after being traded out of Calgary. And this is usually the part of the show where Rick would throw to me and I'd talk about the trade while being somewhere that I'm not really supposed to be, somewhere other than rinkside, but I'm already here, so I'll just talk about it, I guess. Yes, the Flames traded defenseman Rasmus Andersson to the Vegas Golden Knights in exchange for forward Zach Whitecloud, defense prospect Abram Wiebe, a 2027 first-round pick that is top 10 protected, and a 2028 second-round pick that will become a first if Vegas wins the Stanley Cup this year. Andersson was linked to several teams over the last few months, including our Toronto Maple Leafs, who are reportedly on the hunt for a top 4 defenseman after the news that Chris Tanev's season is more than likely over. And now let's get into the games of the week, starting with a matchup against the number 1 team in the league, the Colorado Avalanche. Or I guess on this particular night, they were cosplaying as the Quebec Nordiques. This late-nighter didn't get rolling until after 10 p.m. on the East Coast, and coming into this game, the Leafs had 53 points and held a narrow hold on the first wildcard spot in the East. Meanwhile, the first-place Avalanche came in with 74 points, 11 more than the next closest team in the league, the Dallas Stars. You'd think that would mean the Avs should have the upper hand in this one, yes? Wrong, says the Cowboy. Easton Cowan sends a shot on net that bounces off a defender's skate, and it's 1-0 Maple Leafs. That's a score that lasts all of 4 minutes as Cale Makar and Brock Nelson get the Avs on the board to make it 2-1 after 20, but Bobby McMahon would tie us at 2 with the lone goal of the second. Also in the second period, the Leafs got a power play after John Tavares was brought down on a trip by Avalanche forward Ivan. That had no impact on the game. I just wanted to remind you that there's a guy in the league named Ivan. Austin Matthews would give the Leafs a short-lived lead partway through the third with a classic Pappy wrister, but Martin Necas claws one back for the home team, and we're off to overtime. And it's in overtime where Oliver Ekman-Larsson would find his Olympic teammate William Nylander on the odd man rush, and they put it away. The Leafs take a massive 2 points in a nail-biter against the best in the league. But there's no time to celebrate because less than 24 hours later, it's off to Utah for a scheduled loss against the Mammoth. I'm sorry, did I say scheduled loss? Freudian slip there. Yes, this was a rough one for our Leafs. After 2 weeks of relatively solid games, it took the second half of a back-to-back for the win to leave the proverbial sails. That said, they sucked in this game. There's no excuses for it. I get you're tired. I get you've played well recently, but you can't just take a night off. Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't talk about that game. It's not even really worth looking at. Leafs lose 6-1. So moving on quick from that one, we come now to Vegas on Thursday night for the Leafs' first meeting with the Golden Knights this season, and the first time that Mitch Marner would play against his hometown team. The story started prior to puck drop when Austin Matthews shut down TSN's Mark Masters in a pre-game interview, saying he was tired of questions about Mitch Marner and just wanted to focus on the game. If overtime's anything to go by, Austin doesn't include back-checking in his focus. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The game started off well for the Leafs with a pair of quick goals, Morgan Rielly just 2 minutes into the game and Willie Nylander not long after. However, it was the Nylander goal that foreshadowed a bad night for Toronto as Nylander injured himself on his celly, of all things, pulling something in his lower body, and he'd leave this game with head coach Craig Berube confirming that there is no timeline on his injury. And so shortly after that goal, Pavel Dorofeyev gets Vegas on the board with a power play marker assisted by Mitch Marner. and that's not the last time you're going to hear either man's name in this game. Not long after that goal, Austin Matthews restores the Leafs' 2-goal lead, tipping in a Jake McCabe shot, and Pappy is fired up. It's 3-1 after 1. The second period held just 2 goals for us, 1 per team, as Keegan Kolesar makes it 3-2, but John Tavares answers back on the power play, and the Leafs are just barely gripping on to that 2-goal lead. Pavel Dorofeyev gets his second of the game to open up the third, again on the power play, and again assisted by Mitch Marner. Scott Laughton would claw that 2-goal lead back, but it slipped away from the Leafs, not once, but twice. Mark Stone scored with 10 minutes left on the clock to make it 5-4, and Dorofeyev and Marner combined once more to tie the game, but the Leafs' airtight video crew catch Dorofeyev offside, and the goal comes back. Fast forward to the dying seconds of the game, and I do mean that literally, when Tomas Hertl scores with precisely 7 seconds left on the clock, and for the second time in 3 games, the Leafs are off to OT. And OT would bring us just 1 shot on goal between the two teams, the game winner courtesy of Jack Eichel, and Vegas takes it 6-5 on home ice. And so we come to the final leg of the road trip as the Leafs visit the Winnipeg Jets on Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday. The game would have to wait until the second for its first goals, as the Jets take the lead with markers from Alex Iafallo and Kyle Connor, but Austin Matthews gets one back before second intermission with his 24th of the year, already 9 goals away from his total from last year. Then in third, Nino Niederreiter extends the Winnipeg lead, but Ekman Larsson answers that one quick, and Bobby McMahon ties the game with just over 4 minutes to go, and once again, we're off to overtime. And Max Domi would play the hero in this one, catching a feed from Austin Matthews to beat Connor Hellebuck, and as the Leafs leave the ice, it's absolute chaos. Berube's shouting at the refs, Matthews and Laughton are taunting the Winnipeg crowd. What a game! I hope the boys can keep that momentum going in the next one. Well, the next one's happening tonight. It's just wrapped up as we're recording this now, and I really don't want to talk about it, but I used that excuse already for the Utah game, so I guess I have no choice with this one. The Leafs return home to begin a 5-game homestand, and they do so against the Minnesota Wild. 5 minutes in, and Vlad Tarasenko has the Wild up by 1 on the power play. Ryan Hartman builds on that lead not long after, and John Tavares gets the Leafs on the board to close the first. A pair of Marcus Foligno goals and Vladimir Tarasenko's second of the night make it 5-1 Wild by the end of the second, and that's the end of Joseph Woll's evening. Not his best performance of the season, but I certainly wouldn't say he's to blame for this one. So in comes Dennis Hildeby, and he does his best, I guess. He technically didn't have a goal against. Nick Robertson accidentally puts one in the net while putting himself in the net, and Austin Matthews picked up an impressive goal on the breakaway, but Marcus Foligno seals the deal here, getting a hat trick on the empty net, and the Wild take this one 6-3. Looking ahead in the week, the homestand continues as the Leafs are back at it on Wednesday to host the Detroit Red Wings. Then on Friday, it's Mitch Marner's long-awaited homecoming as the Golden Knights make their annual visit to TO. Then it's a rare Saturday off before we host the Colorado Avalanche on an afternoon game on Sunday. We'll have all those games for you next week, plus so much more. But for now, thank you very much for watching, Leafs Nation. Be sure to like and subscribe. And remember, go Leafs, go. I've always wanted to do that.